And hi guys, hi there, how are all of you? I hope you all are fine. Well, my name is Yusuf and I'm back on Yusuf Reacts. Well guys, today I'm back again with a very interesting movie review for you people. The movie that I'm gonna be talking about as far as today is concerned is something that has really had a huge impact. And if I talk about it, the impact that this movie has is so strong that from out of nowhere this movie emerged in 2014, and from that time even till now, if we have a look at it, the fourth installment of this movie eventually just popped up, with obviously ending up all of it. Now the movie that I'm going to be discussing about is going to be known as John Wick. John Wick is a particular character whom was not familiar and people did not know much about it, but suddenly KEANU Reeves just lived this character to such an extent that now we guys know who John Wick really is. A typical story that eventually would come across, and a typical story in what particular sense? This movie basically gives us the message of this thing that whenever you are someone who choose the path that is wrong, and whenever you prefer to go for the world that is known as the underworld, over there initially things are really good, but once you enter into this world there is nowhere back. And that is what this whole movie eventually targets about. This whole movie talks about this particular thing, that how John Wick eventually, who is one of the best assassin that is ever there, and he's one of the best at his particular job, when he wants to leave he cannot do that. And eventually the thing which tends to happen is this, that there is an incident that takes place, and because of that incident he has to come back. And in order for that particular thing, now the thing that is there is this, there are a lot of things that we eventually come across when we talk about this film. It's not only the way he eventually moves on, it's not only the way how things are portrayed, it's not only the way how that world is, how it operates, how things eventually go along, but over here we have the element of emotion and sensitivity that are literally attract towards each other. If I talk about John Wick, there was one reason that he left that world, and that was a beloved life partner that he had. Because of that particular lady he left it, and eventually the thing which happens is this, that the reason that came for him to leave it again became the reason for him to come back into it. And this time it was not for the sake of money or anything like that. This time it was for the sake of revenge. He wanted revenge from all those particular individuals and all those particular people who had been the cause of the death of her. In chapter 1 we have 4 chapters in short, if I talk about it, of this particular movie. In chapter 1 we see this thing up, that how eventually that thing tends to happen, how his house eventually gets destroyed, and the girl that he did everything for, she's no more. The thing which happens is what, now he wants vengeance, and for that particular thing he is ready to do anything. And as a particular rule that they have, that there is a table. On that table all of them eventually tend to be there for a certain kind of a negotiation at the end of it, after facing all those problems and stuff. But he does what, he breaks the rule that you cannot kill anyone on the table whenever that person is tending to negotiate. But John, because of his frustration, anger, and so much of things that are there inside him, he kills that particular individual, and that's from where the things tend to start. Now the whole particular table is now against him, and that is how the things would eventually go on. And the second sequel we see this thing up, that now John is someone who is a survivor, who's running away from underworld. Underworld, if we see this thing up, there are bids that are done. For all the bounty hunters who are there, there is a contract that is issued with a particular amount. Whoever is going to kill him would be getting that particular amount. And he see that a contract is released and the prize money is rising, continuously rising. Eventually coming on to it for chapter 2, this is how the things eventually tend to fold off. Then when we go for chapter 3, we see this thing up, that now John Wick eventually comes across a particular friend of. and it's not a friend of his, but he eventually makes a particular individual his friend who's really against that all setup. He does not like each and everything that is there, and he's not fond of it, and that individual then helps him out. But the thing that tends to happen is this, that John Wick is still struggling. He eventually tends to go to the high ups of the table so that he can negotiate and he can just get this thing sorted out, but eventually the things does not tend to happen. Now in chapter 4 it had to be the conclusion of each and everything, and that's how they approach the movie up. In chapter 4 we see this thing up that now John Wick is the most wanted underworld ex-assassin who was there, and the prize money for him is literally rising with every hour that is there. Almost everyone, name it any part of the world, Berlin, Paris, New York, England, wherever he is, Japan, they are just against him and they want to kill him. Over here we come across a friend of his that is there, who is a very dear friend, and eventually he just goes over there to meet him up. Now the target that John Wick has is what? John Wick now wants to challenge the head of the table, because of the fact after going through all the particular things he realizes that these rules or these particular individuals who are the head of that particular table are the real cause of it. He wants to go after them, he wants to get rid of them, and that is where we see the original side of Keanu Reeves. He literally just lives this character. It is so relatable, people just love it, and even me being a viewer of it, I just got myself engaged with it only because of the star-studded performance of Keanu Reeves. He's done a remarkable job, guys. So over there he just now goes over there, he tries to figure it out. Over there he has an old friend, and his old friend was also someone who wanted to get out of this world, but he also could not, and he has retired because of the fact he's blind. Now the thing that is there is this, that like, how did he get blind? He was forced to take his eyes out because of one particular reason, that he had a weakness, and that weakness was his daughter. So there was one condition that was set for him: he cannot meet his daughter would be set free. In return he would have to give away his eyes, and he eventually had to do that. But the thing that is there, which is just very remarkable about this guy, is this, that he had really exceptional senses. On the basis of those particular senses, he's really good. He's an arch, or in other words, if I say this thing up, he's extraordinary when we talk about the martial arts skills that are there, and that is something that make him even more dangerous and maybe more extraordinarily good that is there. He's someone who also is hired by the high up of the table, who really wants to get rid of John Wick, and he wants him to get rid of him. So this is how the storyline eventually pops up. Over here we see this thing up that John Wick eventually eradicates all the particular individuals who are there. Even the high up who was there, he eventually kills one of them out. But the most important one who is there is this, that he has to get rid of that particular individual. Now in order to get rid of that particular individual, who has to kill him. Now in order to get into a combat with that particular individual, he sets a proposal for that particular thing. Now there was a particular manager that John Wick used to work for. That manager had what? He had everything that was there. His hotels was the Continental, and at the Continental each and everything was absolutely executed in the exact proper manner that he wanted it to be, and that's how the things were. But the thing which tends to happen is this, that at the Continental, that is taken away from his manager because of the particular reason that he was the one who eventually helped John Wick at a particular time period in chapter 2. So they would take revenge, and they eventually have to, and they kill his most honest and dearest companion who was there, and as a sign or as a signal, they kill that particular individual up. So now John Wick is someone who's really after it. The story moves on. We see action to the fullest, guys. Seriously, such kind of an action is something that is very rarely seen, and when you see it, you're just like mesmerized and amazed with the way how the guns are shot. It's all carnage all around. People are killing each other like anything, and people are not killing it, but everyone is after one guy, that's John Wick, but they are eventually not able to do so. And over here the conclusion eventually tends to happen when John Wick gets an opportunity to kill the head of the table. He dies, but he eventually does kill him at the end of it. He does not shoot at that particular guy who was a dear friend of him, who does not have the eyes, but at the end of it there was a one remarkable thing that John Wick eventually get added into it. And that thing was this thing up that John Wick requested them that on his grave he wants this note to be written that he was a loving husband. Now basically this whole movie sums up each and everything that is there, that sometimes in life certain decisions are meant to be taken by people, but those decisions eventually sometimes can backfire. Talking about the field of underworld, it may be something that quite be quite charming because people find it quite lucrative or stuff like that, but eventually the one who gets stuck into it is someone who just can never get out of it, and that is what this movie shows. And the third thing that it is talking about over here is this, that no matter whatever you do, however your things are, or whatever the way you look at the things, you can't get rid of it once you are a part of that particular world that is there. And that is what John Wick eventually talks about. So all in all, if I talk about it, I know you guys like the review. I want you guys to share my videos, subscribe to the channel guys as much as you guys can, because your subscriptions are literally important for me. And if you're gonna subscribe, then obviously it gives me a boost up. And I want you guys to share my videos, to comment on it. And I guess that's me, Yusuf, saying goodbye to you people. I hope you guys love the review, because John Wick is something that if you guys have not gone for, I prefer you guys to go for it. And all 4 chapters are interlinked with each other. Literally very rarely happens that a sequel of any particular movie is something that is not so engaging, but when we talk about this one, it's a complete pack of 4. Means you look at the first one, you move to the second, third and fourth, you see that all of them are interlinked with each other in such a good manner that you just cannot take your eyes off it. So this is me, Yusuf, saying goodbye to you. Thank you very much for your time guys. Take care.